The mysteries of the brain are vast and complex, as the human brain remains one of the most intricate and enigmatic structures in the known universe. Science will take us on a journey through our current understanding of this impressive structure. Consciousness is one of the most perplexing phenomena in neuroscience and philosophy, often described as the subjective experience of being aware of oneself and the surrounding world. It encompasses various aspects, including perception, thoughts, emotions, and self-awareness. While consciousness is a fundamental aspect of human existence, it remains one of the least understood aspects of brain function. Consciousness is not a binary state, but exists on a spectrum, ranging from basic awareness and wakefulness to higher-order cognitive functions such as self-reflection and introspection. Different levels of consciousness can be observed during wakefulness, sleep, dreaming, and altered states of consciousness induced by meditation, hypnosis, or psychoactive substances. Philosopher David Chalmers famously coined the term the hard problem of consciousness to refer to the question of why and how subjective experiences arise from physical processes in the brain. While neuroscientists have made significant progress in understanding the neural correlates of consciousness, the brain regions and networks associated with conscious awareness, the subjective nature of consciousness presents a profound philosophical challenge. Philosophers have proposed various theories of consciousness, ranging from dualism, the idea that consciousness is fundamentally different from physical matter, to materialism, the view that consciousness arises from physical processes in the brain. Debates about the nature of consciousness continue to stimulate philosophical inquiry and interdisciplinary research. Understanding consciousness remains a daunting challenge, requiring insights from neuroscience, psychology, philosophy, and other disciplines. While progress has been made in elucidating the neural basis of consciousness, many mysteries remain, inviting further exploration and contemplation. Neuroplasticity. The brain's remarkable ability to adapt and change throughout life is known as neuroplasticity. This phenomenon allows the brain to reorganize its structure and function in response to experiences, learning, and injury. Understanding the mechanisms of neuroplasticity has significant implications for rehabilitation after brain injuries and for optimizing learning and cognitive abilities. A compelling real-world example of neuroplasticity is the phenomenon observed in individuals who have experienced brain damage or injury, such as stroke survivors. After a stroke, which occurs when blood flow to part of the brain is interrupted, the affected area of the brain can suffer damage, leading to various impairments such as paralysis, speech difficulties, or cognitive deficits. However, the brain has a remarkable ability to reorganize and adapt following injury, a process known as neuroplasticity. For instance, in cases of stroke-induced paralysis, the brain can undergo structural and functional changes to compensate for the loss of function in the damaged area. This compensation often involves the recruitment of undamaged brain regions to take over the functions of the injured ones. Through neuroplasticity, new neural connections can be formed and existing connections can be strengthened, allowing individuals to regain motor function and relearn tasks. One specific example is the rehabilitation of motor function in stroke survivors through physical therapy and rehabilitation exercises. By engaging in repetitive movements and activities, stroke survivors can promote neural reorganization and plasticity in the brain, facilitating the recovery of motor skills. Over time, the brain can adapt to the injury by rewiring neural circuits, allowing individuals to regain mobility and function. Neuroplasticity is not limited to stroke recovery, but is also observed in various other conditions such as traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injury, and neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. Understanding and harnessing the principles of neuroplasticity are crucial for developing effective rehabilitation strategies and interventions to promote recovery and improve the quality of life for individuals with neurological disorders. Memory formation and storage. Memories are not stored in a single location in the brain, but are distributed across various neural networks. How memories are formed, consolidated, and retrieved remains a mystery. Scientists are studying the intricate mechanisms involved in memory processing, including synaptic plasticity, neuronal connectivity, and the role of different brain regions. Memory is a complex cognitive process that involves the encoding, storage, and retrieval of information. There are several types of memory, but two of the most widely recognized are short-term memory, STM. Short-term memory, also known as working memory, refers to the temporary storage of information that is currently being used or processed. STM has a limited capacity and duration, typically holding information for a few seconds to a minute. It is involved in tasks such as remembering a phone number long enough to dial it, following directions, or solving a problem. STM relies on processes such as rehearsal, repeating information to maintain it, chunking, grouping information into meaningful units, and attention, selectively focusing on relevant information. Long-term memory, LTM. Long-term memory is the system responsible for the storage and retrieval of information over an extended period ranging from minutes to a lifetime. LTM has a vast capacity and can store a wide range of information, including facts, experiences, skills, and concepts. It is subdivided into different types of memory, including episodic memory, personal experiences, semantic memory, general knowledge, and procedural memory, skills and habits. The process of encoding information into long-term memory involves elaborative rehearsal, where new information is connected to existing knowledge or experiences, making it more meaningful and easier to remember. Retrieval of information from long-term memory can occur through various cues and associations, and memories may become more or less accessible over time, depending on factors such as rehearsal, interference, and context. Both short-term and long-term memory are essential for everyday functioning and cognitive tasks. While short-term memory allows us to temporarily hold and manipulate information, long-term memory enables us to store and retrieve vast amounts of knowledge and experiences accumulated over a lifetime. These two types of memory work together to support learning, problem-solving, and adaptive behavior. Emotions play a fundamental role in human experience, shaping our thoughts, behaviors, and interactions with the world. Emotional processing refers to the cognitive and neural mechanisms involved in perceiving, experiencing, expressing, and regulating emotions. Components of emotion. Emotions involve multiple components, including physiological responses such as changes in heart rate, sweating, and facial expressions, subjective feelings such as joy, sadness, fear, and anger, cognitive appraisal, the evaluation of events and situations, and behavioral expressions such as facial expressions, gestures, and vocalizations. There are several theories of emotion that seek to explain how emotions are generated and experienced. These include the James Lange theory, which posits that physiological arousal precedes and leads to emotional experience; the Cannon-Bard theory, which suggests that physiological arousal and emotional experience occur simultaneously but independently; and the Schachter-Singer two-factor theory, which proposes that both physiological arousal and cognitive appraisal are necessary for emotional experience. Emotion regulation refers to the processes by which individuals influence the intensity, duration, and expression of their emotions. Effective emotion regulation is essential for adaptive functioning and involves strategies such as reappraisal, changing the way one thinks about a situation, suppression, inhibiting emotional expression, and distraction, shifting attention away from emotional stimuli. Emotional processing involves complex interactions between brain regions involved in sensory perception, cognitive appraisal, and emotional response. Key brain structures implicated in emotional processing include the amygdala, which plays a central role in detecting and responding to threat and reward; the prefrontal cortex, which regulates emotional responses and cognitive control; and the insula, which is involved in interoception and awareness of bodily states. Dysfunction in emotional processing is implicated in various psychiatric disorders, including anxiety disorders, mood disorders, such as depression and bipolar disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and personality disorders. These conditions are characterized by disturbances in mood regulation, emotional reactivity, and interpersonal relationships. Understanding emotions and emotional processing is crucial for promoting mental health and well-being, as well as for developing interventions to address emotional disorders and enhance emotional resilience. Research in this area spans disciplines such as psychology, neuroscience, psychiatry, and cognitive science, shedding light on the complex interplay between cognition, emotion, and behavior. Brain disorders and mental illnesses encompass a broad range of conditions that affect the structure, function, and chemistry of the brain, leading to disturbances in cognition, emotion, behavior, and/or perception. Here are some key points about brain disorders and mental illness. Brain disorders versus mental illness. Brain disorders refer to conditions that primarily affect the structure and function of the brain, leading to neurological symptoms such as movement disorders, seizures, or cognitive impairment. Examples include Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, epilepsy, and traumatic brain injury. Mental illness, on the other hand, refers to conditions that primarily affect mood, thought, and behavior, often involving disturbances in emotion regulation, perception, and social functioning. Examples include depression, anxiety disorders, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD. Brain disorders and mental illnesses can have various causes, including genetic factors, environmental influences, brain injury or trauma, neurochemical imbalances, and developmental factors. In many cases, these conditions result from complex interactions between genetic predisposition and environmental stresses. Advances in neuroscience have revealed that many mental illnesses have neurobiological underpinnings involving abnormalities in brain structure, function, and neurotransmitter systems. For example, depression is associated with alterations in neurotransmitters such as serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine, as well as changes in brain regions involved in mood regulation, such as the prefrontal cortex and limbic system. Symptoms of brain disorders and mental illnesses vary widely depending on the specific condition, but may include cognitive deficits, such as memory impairment or executive dysfunction, mood disturbances, such as persistent sadness or irritability, psychotic symptoms, such as hallucinations or delusions, anxiety, obsessions and compulsions, changes in sleep or appetite, and impaired social or occupational functioning. Diagnosis of brain disorders and mental illnesses typically involves a comprehensive evaluation by a healthcare professional, including a detailed medical history, physical examination, and psychological assessment. Diagnostic criteria outlined in classification systems such as the DSM-5, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or ICD-10, International Classification of Diseases, may be used to guide diagnosis. Treatment approaches for brain disorders and mental illnesses may include pharmacotherapy, such as antidepressants, antipsychotics, or mood stabilizers, psychotherapy, such as cognitive behavioral therapy or psychoeducation, rehabilitation therapies, such as physical therapy or occupational therapy, and lifestyle modifications, such as exercise, nutrition, and stress management. Despite significant advances in understanding and treating brain disorders and mental illnesses, stigma and discrimination remain pervasive, leading to barriers to treatment, social isolation, and negative attitudes toward individuals with these conditions. Efforts to reduce stigma and promote mental health awareness are essential for improving access to care and supporting individuals affected by these conditions. Overall, brain disorders and mental illnesses are complex and multifaceted conditions that require comprehensive, multidisciplinary approaches to diagnosis, treatment, and support. Continued research into the underlying mechanisms of these conditions, along with efforts to reduce stigma and improve access to care, are critical for addressing the global burden of neurological and psychiatric disorders. It never ceases to amaze me how far we have come in our understanding of the human self, the brain. How is it that such a small piece of matter can have such an understanding of itself? It is essentially training itself to understand itself. I hope one day, in the not-so-far future, we will have a brain that fully understands itself and the wider universe and takes us far into the future with deep knowledge of what and why we are what we are. Thank you for taking the time to watch here at Middle Room. I really do appreciate it. Good night all, and question everything.